So this morning, I'm going to use a block quite a bit. So I have that towards the front of the mat. And we're going to come into standing start, front of the mat as well. So just allow yourself to take your feet a distance apart, parallel, and just allow those toes to have a little bit of a stretch to wake them up. At the same time, whilst you're doing that, I'm going to ask you to sort of push your tailbone towards the back of the mat and sort of accentuate that a little bit. And then lift the chest. Draw the belly in a little bit. Taking long, slow breaths. You can feel it come all the way out through your body into your collarbones. Then when I wriggle through my toes, I tend to sort of rock a little bit from side to side as well. It just gives me a chance to settle in front of the mat and figure out how my body feels, especially these classes early in the morning. You don't necessarily warm the body up by moving around through the day. This can be a little stiff still. Just feeling the effects of the day before. And finally, I'll let myself settle the feet. Get a sense of them spreading out, rooting, connecting to the ground. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Soften the knees a fraction. Start to hinge forwards, take the weight into the toes, and ease my way down to the floor. Soften the knees even further and sit back into chair. Take the arms forwards gradually, in line with the chest, and then come about halfway up with the body. Try to tuck the tailbone down a little bit. Drive through the legs to lift myself back up. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Soften the knees a little. Into the toes, flat back. Big bends in the knees to start with. And then sitting down into the chair. Easing the hands forward so ribs and thighs are still connected. And then lifting that sort of 45-degree direction. Try to keep the knees same distance apart as the feet are and pointing forwards. And allow yourself to lift up. Bring the hands in towards the heart again. Hinging at the hips. Down to the floor again. Hands onto the shins this time. Come up halfway. And exhaling down. The ribs are getting a little closer to the thighs. Bend is getting a little less in the legs as we lift up again. Exhaling down. Up. Now, take a little breath from there. Hands come down to the floor. And we're stepping back into our down dog. Deciding whether you want to walk your legs out or keep them still, whether you want to bend the knees a lot, thighs vertical to the ground. You want to wriggle around a little bit. When you want to move into those shoulders, maybe that's the part that's a little tight. Keeping the hands nice and flat to the floor. And just kind of opening the body up gently. I'm going to float forwards into a plank. so that I can bring my knees down directly underneath the hips. Roll the shoulders back a little bit into cat-cow, so tailbone to the sky. And press lightly into the hands and the shins, and allow your spine to round up. Inhaling through. And exhaling out. And if you wish to, maybe roll it around a little bit into the barrels. That finds a few more nooks and crannies in the spine, but also in the shoulders and the hips a little bit as well. You're going to move both ways if you're going to barrel. And we'll take the knees wide in from a neutral position, toes together. Sit gently back down into child's pose. So walk the hands out, let the body sink down. Very easy. Keep the elbows lifted off the ground. The shoulders broaden out a little bit. The arms straight. So here we'll take this into a side bend. The head gently, we'll take the hands over towards the right side. Take a few breaths here. And the stretching the lower back, but also feeling the ribs down the side of the body open with the breath. Across. And we'll lift back up again. Come up to the front of the mat. Going to come up onto all fours. And I'm going to thread the needle through. So we'll take the right arm up towards the sky on the breath in. Fold that under and through. Shoulder and ear to the ground. Just going to stay in this position for a few breaths. So we're going to try and draw the left shoulder over to the right side of the mat. Press the shins lightly into the ground. So turning your spine around, spiraling on the axis. Thinking about getting your chest to point towards the sky. We'll go all the way around. We'll go as far as we can. We'll press back into the hand and lift ourselves up onto all fours and take the breath in and open up the left side of the body. Bring that through. Again, we'll come down onto that shoulder and ear and then press into that front hand of right side of the body. Draw that right shoulder over towards the left. So just away from the ear. And trying to move it in that direction. It's not the easiest movement to make. Some days feel a little bit tight. Just being in the position and breathing is a challenge enough. Okay, we'll take a last breath here. Press into the floor. Let ourselves lift back up. We'll come down onto the elbows and bring them about shoulder distance apart. Interlace the hands lightly, so little fingers tucked under. I'm going to slide the left and the right leg back. Bring ourselves into an elbow plank. You're going to have a little check through your body and just make sure, so you tuck your head underneath, you have a little look, that your bum's not sticking too high up in the air or dropping too far down towards the floor. You want to be as parallel to the ground as you can, and you push the forearms down into the floor, so you get a slight rounding across the back of the shoulders. Obviously lifts you a little more off the ground. And we'll bring the knees to the ground again. Underneath us, back onto all fours. Put the toes underneath, back into down dog. Scissor the right leg, toes towards the sky. You can lift up on the tippy toes of the left foot if that feels good. And then bring the foot back down. And we'll take the opposite leg up. Now, I try to keep the hips as square as possible to the floor and therefore the shoulders as well. Bring that foot back down to the floor. We'll draw the right knee in towards the chest. Step ourselves through into a lunge to the front of the mat, into a fold, hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. I'll take the breath to the sky. Inhale. Hands through the heart. Exhale over the hips. Slightly longer legs this time. Soften the knees as you come into a lunge. Taking the right foot back. And come onto fingertips. Work on getting that front knee over the ankle. Pressing out through the back heel. It's a nice long lunge. And we'll drop the back heel onto the ground. Ready for warrior two. The toes are out 45 degrees-ish. And we'll bring the hands onto the front thigh so we can press down through the shin, which is why that knee being over the ankle is important. Turn the body to the long side of the mat as you open the groins out. Lifting the hands out gently. Try and relax the shoulders. Look out through that middle finger, front hand. Put the tailbone down a little bit towards the floor. You'll feel your belly just draw in a little tighter. Navel towards spine. Bring the hands back in towards the heart. We'll let them come down to the floor, framing the front foot. Step ourselves gently back into our down dog. We'll go forwards into plank. And let the knees come to the floor. Now take a little breath there. Just lift the feet off the ground, across the ankles, keeping the bum high, the belly drawn in. You're going to lean your shoulders over the end of your fingertips. Bend the elbows back and let your chest come to the ground. Your heart touches the floor. Then you can untangle the feet, slide them back, and you're onto your belly. On the inhale, lift up, low cobra. Exhale back down again. So try and keep the thighs pressing down and the legs away. And if possible, rolling the heels in an outwardly direction. Very little weight in the hands and avoiding pulling in the neck. It's the lower back. Just doing the lifting. I'll take one more lift and basically because I lost count. Bring the hands back to the bottom of the ribs. Shoulders and elbows back. We peel ourselves from the floor. Turn the hands forwards, tuck the toes under, sit onto the heels, head to the ground. So almost into child's pose. Lift back up. Onto all fours, roll the shoulders away from the ears. Draw the belly in, and lift ourselves slowly into our down dog. We'll draw the right knee into the lunge, coming through. Onto the fingertips, Find a little press off the back foot, the forward bend. Hands onto the hips, and we lift up. Take the hands high again. Do the second side the same. Exhaling down. And the left leg goes back. Onto the fingertips. Check your knee position on the front leg. There's little microscopic movements, moving your foot a millimeter this way or that way make a big difference. Drop the heel in. Hands onto the thigh, belly soft lift. Rotate the chest open, long side. Float the arms up. Strong back leg pressing down. And hands into the heart. Down to the floor. Stepping back into our down dog. Come forwards into a plank. Knees to the ground. Lift the toes, cross the ankles. Hips are high as we lean forwards. Elbows into the ribs, chest to the floor. Untop the toes, slide the feet back. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. 2. 3. 4. And 5. And hands again down by the bottom of the ribs. Shoulders back, heel from the floor. Sit onto the heels. Lower yourself down. Inhale back up onto all fours. Shoulders roll back, neutral spine, down dog, pressing up and back. Now left knee into the chest, through, into our lunge, and then push off the toes as you exhale gently forwards. Hands onto the hips, lift up. Let's step into the front of the mat, travel back a little bit. Inhale, hands high, hands into the heart. Exhale down gently. Right leg to the back of the mat. Drop the heel in. Hands onto the front thigh and open up into our warrior two. Float the arms up towards the sky and rotate the chest and arms. Hips towards the front of the mat and come back down. Take a little breath from there. Now take your left hand on the inside of your foot and just walk your left foot out to the outside edge of the mat. Back knee down onto the floor as you untuck your toes. Take the right hand forwards and drop your elbow down onto the floor, forearms parallel to the line of the mat. And then open up, take that left hand up towards the sky and twist in your body. So press down into the bottom shin a little bit. You're going to roll onto the outside edge of the flexed front foot, let the knee hang out to the side, and press that forearm down into the floor to lift yourself from the ground. Bring the hands back onto the mat. Tuck the toe on the back foot. Step back into our down dog. And forwards into the plank, knees to the floor. Untuck the toes away from the ground, crossing his ankles. Chest to the floor. And slide the feet back as you untangle the ankles. Coming up for 1. And down. 2. 3. 4. And hands again to the bottom of the ribs, shoulders back and heel away from the floor. Hands pointing forwards, we sit onto the toes, head to the ground. Roll it back up onto all fours. Shoulders back, neutral position, hips to the sky for down dog. Right knee into the chest, foot through for the lunge, press off the toes, forward bend, hands onto the hips, and we lift up. Step it forwards again, second side, hands high, and towards the heart, and exhale down. Left leg back, drop the heel in, hands onto that front thigh, and we lift up into our warrior two. We'll continue to float the arms up, rotate gently, bring it back down to the floor. Right hand comes in, walk the right foot out, drop the back knee down to the ground. Left hand comes forwards as we drop the elbow, and then we take the twist again. Tuck the toes on the back, bootlaces down, press into the shin a little bit, press down through that forearm, rotate the chest up towards the sky. Now bring the hand down, lift up onto all fours, back into our down dog. Come forwards into the plank, knees to the ground, lifting those toes away, crossing the ankles. Come forwards and down. Untap the feet, slide back. Low cobra flow for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hands again. Back of the ribs. Press away from the floor. Fingers spin forwards as we sit down onto those haunches. And back up, round your spine into neutral. Move slowly into your down dog. So your left knee into your chest. Bring your foot through the front of the mat. Fingertips for the lunge. And press forwards gently into that fold. Hands onto the hips. We lift up. Bring the hands in towards our heart. Bring your feet together. And something that it's two can focus on that doesn't move, and start to press down through the left foot. And slowly lift the right heel away from the ground. You'll feel more weight transfer into the hip joint, so press down a little more through the leg. And then yourself to lift the right knee slowly up. Now you're going to squeeze that up as high as you can and see if you can take your fingers around the front shin without really looking at your leg. So you do that out of your sort of peripheral vision, corner of your eye. And then allow yourself to draw the knee in towards your body, using a little bit of strength in the arms and hands. And release that foot to the floor. Bring the feet back together again and just start to transfer the weight into the opposite leg. Keep your eyes glued on your focal point. And slowly allow yourself to lift the opposite knee away from the ground. You're ready. If you can take your hands around the shin. Gently out of that as well. So just bring the feet back together after you've given the legs a little bit of a shake out. We'll take tree pose, so bring the hands into the heart again. We'll load into the left leg first. Draw the heel right side away from the floor and then turn the toes out. So the knee hops out to the side as well. Now square these hips and shoulders to feel like they're moving in the same direction as that standing foot and knee. See if you can bring your foot gently onto the side of the shin and the calf. Find your balance point. That might be where you stay today. I'm going to take it higher. Just going to lift that heel closer into the groin. Press it into the top. Get some traction between the foot and the thigh before you release. And then see if you can take the hands from wherever you are out into a nice big Y shape, palms facing in. Try to avoid the temptation of singing YMCA. Again, we'll release out of that. Just scoot the knee back, bring the foot into the floor, shake out the ankles and the feet a little bit. Bring the feet back together and we'll work into the second side. So hands into the heart. And slowly starting to turn the foot out to the side. Slide the foot onto the heel, onto the shin and calf. So trying to keep a balance and talk sense at the same time is a tricky thing. And then if you feel like you've got the balance, you can bring the foot up. And then allow yourself to come into that beautiful Y shape. Try and relax the shoulders a little. And then we'll ease the foot down to the floor. And shake it out again. So I'm going to come off the mat, just a little bit more stability for me underfoot. Bring the feet together. Find a focal point again, hands in towards the heart. I'm going to load into this left outside leg here. And slowly draw the knee. Now you can either have the hands in front of your chest or on your hips. It really is sort of personal choice. And I'm going to see if I can lift the knee up and out slowly to the side. I'm going to try and keep the heel hooked in towards the bottom and the foot flexed a little bit as I start to take the knee towards the back of the mat. As high as I dare. Now I'm leaning forward quite a lot. And then I'm going to bring the knee, slide it back through and up. So I'm going to do 3 of these big circles on each leg. So that's the plan. And bring the foot back down. Shake out the leg again. Bring feet together. Find your point of interest to focus on. Load into your leg. Start to lift your knee forwards and up. Again, hook the heel in towards your bottom. The foot flexed a little. Allow yourself to rotate out slowly. Put that third one. bringing the foot down to the floor. And again, shaking the legs out a little bit. So we need that block right up the front end of the mat. And we'll take it edge on, just out in front of us. Take a little breath, bring the hands in towards your heart, so feet are hip distance apart again. I'm going to hinge down to the floor. And take the right foot to the back of the mat into lunge. And drop the heel in. Come up into my warrior two. Allow myself to lift, open up. And turn a palm on the front hand for reverse warrior. And then simply come back into warrior two and straighten the front leg. Send the hips towards the back a little bit, keeping the legs straight. Triangle pose happens by leaning out. I'm going to see if I can pick up the block and spring it under the hand and shoulder, and then take the top arm up towards the sky. I'm going to rotate the chest round as far as I can. Send the hips a little over towards the right side as well, side I'm facing. And now soften the knee. Allow ourselves to come slowly back up. Hands come high, down to the floor. Spin the back heel. Allow myself to just take the block out in front of me. Move the fingers forwards, just not actually using the block on either side of that. And then I'm going to lift as I lean into the front leg, into my warrior three. I'll take a little time to square the hips, have a little look and make sure that my back leg is running down the line of the mat, even if it's an imaginary line. You can stay on the fingertips, or you can draw the belly in and press away from the floor a little bit and see if you can lift yourself away from the ground. Sometimes you just want to do that with one hand at a time, and that's enough. You're thinking about the stability in the hips, keeping these 2 points here square to the ground, so the toes point down naturally rather than rolling out. And we'll soften the front knee and bring ourselves back into the lunge and bring the fingertips back in line more or less with the toes, so we can step into the forward bend again. And we'll move the block back up, ready, front of the mat. Bring our hands onto the hips and let ourselves lift up. And come high and towards the heart. Now exhale down to the floor. And we'll take the left foot back into the lunge and drop the heel in. Hands onto the front thigh and lift up into our warrior twos. Then we turn the palm on the front hand and ease our way into reverse warrior. Back, warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Then send the hips back a little bit. Begin to extend out over our front thigh. Bring the block in. Allow yourself to get a nice comfortable position. Look out to the side a little bit. Press the hips over to that left side. Press the feet down. Push away from the ground in that bottom hand. Roll the chest round. Soften the front knee. Allow ourselves to lift back up into a warrior two. Hands come high and down to the floor. Let's move the block forwards again and out of the way. Take the hands forwards a little bit as we spin the back heel. And let ourselves lift into our warrior three. Again, keeping the fingers on the ground is more than okay. There's the blocks there. You could even just bring that in. Let yourself lift up onto your fingertips there. You get a little higher. You start to appreciate in its simplest form that the lifting up away from the ground actually makes the warrior three feel a bit more comfortable as your body gets more in line, parallel to the ground. It just feels a little easier to control. It feels like it's a little bit more within your body rather than sort of worrying about lifting the legs so much. Soften the front knee, let the back foot come down into the lunge. Take a little breath, turn over the page and step into the forward bend. Bring the hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift up. Inhale high, hands into the heart. Allow ourselves to exhale down. Now again, just have that block, the front of the mat, have it flat and going landscape across the mat. I'm going to take the right foot to the back of the mat and drop the heel in as if I'm going to do warrior two. I'm going to take the left hand forwards, fingertips, and have that hand line up more or less directly in front and ahead of the foot on that side. I'm going to step the back foot in about halfway up onto the tippy toes and allow myself to place the palm and the hand to the floor and lift the back foot away from the ground, keeping that leg running down the center line of the mat. And then see if I need to adjust the hand or position the way a little bit. If I can take the right hand away from the ground towards the hip and slowly take it up towards the sky into a half moon pose. This time we're turning the foot out to the side, the hips out to the side, and pressing away from the ground. Last breath, soften the front knee, bring the back foot into the lunge, fingertips down to the ground to save us, and step it into the forward bend. Just recenter your block. Hands onto the hips. We'll lift up. These forward folds are probably getting a little deeper now. All the muscles have started to warm up. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down to the floor again. Just a little softness in the knees as we come in. Left foot goes back and we drop the heel in. Take the right hand forwards. Draw the back foot in halfway, palm flat to the ground or onto the block. Lift the back leg slowly away from the floor. Turn the hip out. Do adjust the hand so it feels more like it's underneath your shoulder. So it might not be quite in line with that front foot any longer, but it's close. Draw the body forwards a little bit as you lift the back leg. And then when it feels structurally sound, you can lift your left hand onto your hip and then start to take that towards the sky, opening the chest a little more as well at the time. And then press down through the hand and the leg. Soften the front knee. Bring the foot down, fingers down again into the lunge. Take a little breath. Whew. And we'll step into the forward fold. Now we're going to take the block, just place that behind the heels. Fingers forwards as we lift the feet up onto the heels onto the corner edges of the block, so that we can come into a little squat. Whew. Bring hands in towards the heart. Just use those elbows to open the thighs out that last little bit. Relax the shoulders back. Pull the belly in a little bit. And then we can release from there. So they can come down onto the mat. Now let's move the block out of the way. Hands behind, knees high. The spine down to the floor. Bring the feet in close to your body. The arms come out wide. Bring all the hips under and the shoulders. And let the legs go over towards the right side, head to the left. Keep the shoulders on the ground. Just relax the legs out completely. Back up again. And roll it across the other side. And then we'll come across back into the center. Take the feet out. Shavasana, just a couple of minutes. Hands to the side, let the legs roll out. And relax down. And it's time to start to shake out Wriggle the fingers and toes. Ankles and wrists. Join in a little bit as we breathe in a little deeper. Enjoy that big juicy old stretch. What that looks like for you this morning. And allow yourself to slide the heels in towards the body. And let the knees gently come in for the simplest of hugs. And then roll carefully onto your right side. And as you use your exhale, press into the hands to lift up from the floor. Spin yourself around gently into that nice tall seated position. Hands come into the heart, taking a breath in, eyes closed. Soft exhale, draw the belly to the spine, chin to the chest. And simply bow to the floor to seal your practice. Inhale for the breath, leading the spine. It can lift, the eyes open. Namaste. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed. See you when I'm out again soon.